The content of Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo, powered by 710 Radio, is intended for general information purposes only. It is not designed to provide listeners with specific and personal medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional services, or any advice. The programs are not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Individuals with health problems should always consult their healthcare provider for professional medical advice, medications, and/or treatments. Kingdom of Healing also does not promote anyone's individual practices, programs, agendas, particular treatments, healthcare programs, providers, hospitals, and/or medical centers. The views expressed by show host and their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Kingdom of Healing. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. We encourage you to always seek professional advice or care for any problems which you may have. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to the Kingdom of Healing or 710 Radio or the show hosts whose words and or opinions appear from or on this radio show.
Live on iHeartRadio, powered by 710 Radio. This is The Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo. So grab you a pen and a paper, kick your feet up, and get ready for some serious knowledge to be dropped on you. Because Kimberly Mateo is a nationally certified naturopath, master herbalist, iridologist, a nutritionist, and a holistic healer since 1977. She shares 35 plus years of knowledge and experience to listeners who are interested in learning and overcoming health challenges naturally. So without further delay, here is the host of your show, Kimberly Mateo.
Hi, thank you for joining me today on Kingdom of Healing. This is Kimberly Mateo, and I'm a traditional naturopath and a master herbalist, and I have been involved in alternative healing for 38 years now, and I hope that what I have learned and want to share helps you and your loved ones to overcome any type of health challenges that you have. Today I want to talk about the nutrition that's needed to sustain and to overcome, to build new cells and new tissue for those that, out there that may have children with disabilities or any family member that is needing a lot of care, and especially our senior citizens as well, our grandparents, and just those people that we love that have made it to the age where, unfortunately, you hit a certain age in this country and they think that you really just need to be off into some retirement home, or if you've encountered and dealt with a serious illness and you're not recovering very well from, say, maybe a surgery when you're 80, 85, 87 years old, and you're not bouncing back like certainly someone that, has a surgery when they're much younger. And I have a gentleman down in the Lake of the Ozarks that I'm very, very close to, and he's really kind of like a grandfather to me. And I went down there a couple weeks ago because he, at 87 years old, this man 2 years ago, I would have challenged a lot of people to try to keep up with him in a day. His diet has always been excellent. They've always raised a garden, and they eat organically. Meat and everything they find that is naturally raised, and this has really been the way that he has always been and raised their children, and the same way. And actually, about 5 years ago, when he was 82, it was the first time that he had to go see a doctor
Wow.
since he got out of the war.
Wow.
So we're talking like 55 years, 60 years, something like that. He had never, ever been to a physician. So no medications or anything like that. And so what had happened was he had a tumor in his bowel.
Oh.
And, it was blocking everything moving through. So they did an emergency surgery. He's 87. They did an emergency surgery, and they sectioned a part of his bowel. And, he just was not bouncing back. And so it was arranged for him to go to one of these kind of a retirement home that was also a rehabilitation center. And what I found, I was so disappointed. I came in and drove down there to see him. It was, quite a drive. I had been in Omaha for a awesome family reunion of celebrating 105 years of my family coming over from Carlentini, Italy. And just really some amazing cousins and things that I was finally had the opportunity to meet and spend some time with. And then from Omaha, I went down to the Lake of the Ozarks and went to see my friend. And I found him at about 8 o'clock at night, really kind of in a fetal position in his room. One thing that's been really nice is that a gentleman that has an organic garden had been bringing him, and has continued to do that every day, brings him in probably about 20 ounces of a variety of different greens and berries and stuff, and juices that and brings that into him. Well, that really had been about the only thing that he had been drinking a little bit of every day for about the past week. And it wasn't really enough nutrition. He just didn't have an appetite. And when I left with his wife and my little granddaughter, we were really sad, and we spent some time talking about things that could be added to his diet that she was going to have to really sneak in. And so we went back the very next day at lunch, and I got to see what they feed. They're continuing to feed our senior citizens, and as well as there were people there that, like one gal had been in a car accident and was severely injured, and she's in a wheelchair now. And she's been there quite a few months. She's just really not making enough progress to go home. And she was in her 40s. And as I looked around the room at all of these tables and the food that was on those plates, I noticed that he'd had only a couple of bites out of the main entree. And most of his salad he had consumed that, but it was swimming in ranch dressing, which is, full of sugar and flavor enhancers and probably MSG. And then there was white cake with white frosting on it, and there was a few bites out of that. And the vegetables that were on the plate had been so overcooked that the broccoli was extremely light green. I mean, it didn't look appetizing at all. And I asked someone at the table, I says, does anybody know what this entree is supposed to be? And a couple of people, before one lady responded, a couple of people said, well, whatever it is, it tastes horrible. Well, what it was spaghetti that they had blended up and then put in a baking dish and baked it, and so it was called, baked spaghetti. And it didn't look appetizing at all. And then, of course, then there's the coffee and all of the packets laying around with the imitation cream and white sugar packets. And then, of course, there was the sugar packets that were like Splenda or NutraSweet, which is a neurotoxin, which is not going to do anything for feeding and nourishing, your nervous system. And so it was really very disheartening. The water that was in his water container in his room, the CNA would come in and just, fill that up with the sink water. And when that sink water was turned on, that faucet was turned on, the smell of the chlorine and the ammonia in that room coming from that faucet was, it was literally burning my sinuses.
Wow.
But I don't drink anything like that. I don't drink water that, comes from the tap that's not, filtered really, really well so that that's all removed. So, I have kind of a heightened sensitivity to it. But I had talked with his wife about sneaking in D3 and looking over his blood work. His platelet count was low, his red platelet count. He was anemic. Platelet weight, the volume weight with iron saturation was low. His hematocrit was low. And so, I had her start giving him blackstrap molasses, about 3 tablespoons a day at least. And it's been no problem. He absolutely loves it. And, she brings it in and, with a dropper, pours it in a dropper bottle and puts 3 or 4 squirts in his mouth and then 3 or 4 more squirts, in a couple hours, and gives him 3 or 4 more, squirts of it before she leaves to go home. And before I was leaving the house this morning, I talked to her, and she told me, she said, I am so thankful that you came down, because she really felt that if I hadn't, that by now she would have lost him.
Wow.
So as of yesterday, with, of course, his D3 level in his blood work was at 72. And the doctor was throwing a fit that he couldn't figure out why his D3 level was so high, and that was a toxic level, that he couldn't have his D3 at that level. Well, I'm here to tell you something. Your D3 level needs to come in between 70 and 100 if you're working on building new tissue. If you're dealing with autoimmune diseases, if you're dealing with any type of a cancer or abnormal cell activity, you need your D3 level to come in between 70 and 100. And, D3 is what our body will make from the sunlight. 20 minutes of sunlight that causes the body to make, we make D3 from that. We get that from the sunlight. And so, it's so good for the immune system. And so what she'd been bringing up to him was chlorophyll. Because, another thing with chlorophyll being green, that process takes place from sunlight. And that chlorophyll is the blood of the plant. And the only thing that's different between our blood and chlorophyll is that our blood's central atom is iron and plant is magnesium. But it has all the components to make and build good, healthy blood cells. So, she's been giving him that. She's been giving him the D3. the blackstrap molasses, which is high in natural occurring iron, and it's also high in natural occurring sulfur, which is really good for the immune system. And it's different than, sulfur, like a sulfa medicine, when you have the natural biochemical source that comes from the food. So it's very immune enhancing, as well as that D3. And then, of course, the juicing that one gentleman was doing and brings in every day to him. And, what she said this morning is yesterday he was up and around and alert, and it looks like they're finally going to get some things arranged for him to go home. We did take him that day that after lunch, and he asked me, he said, will you come back up and have dinner? And I said, sure, I'll come back up and have dinner with you, but I'm bringing dinner. I'm not eating that food, and I think you need a break from the food. And I told his wife, I said, you just need to get good organic meat in that crock pot at night before you go to bed, and you need to put some good organic vegetables and stuff in it, and let that cook overnight, and then that food is soft enough for him to eat that. And bring him kefir, and I've talked about kefir or kefir, I've talked about that before. There's a lot of good bacteria in that helps to build up that intestinal flora, because that's where the majority of the immune system is at. And if you do not have a good level of good gut bacteria, then you get sick all the time. It's too hard to overcome any kind of illnesses. He did have a really bad urinary tract infection, of which, of course, they're going to, do antibiotics for that. And so, I told her, I said, as soon as he's done with the antibiotics, as soon as you get him home, you need to get building him back up with the kefir and the probiotic 11, the Fluoroforce. Those are probiotic 11, Fluoroforce, the D3. Those are all things that you can find on kingdomofhealing.com. Just go to that the search bar up there in that upper right-hand corner and type in D3 or the chlorophyll. The probiotic 11, the Fluoroforce, the L-acidophilus. I mean, there's so many things. Once you get in there and you bring up those products, I mean, there's over 600 products that are second to no one's products out there. And the quality control, just if you get in there and take a look at the quality control video, it's really amazing on what they do. And they do only have, there's only five labs in the world that have the type of testing equipment that the company has, and they are one in five of those labs in the world. So, but so it looks like now he's going to be going home. She'll get help, to come in, and it's there that she'll be able to use things like the Love and Peas or the Nature's Harvest, which is they're both lactose free, they're gluten free, they're high in protein, they're high in organic fruits and vegetables, and both of them taste delicious, and they're extremely easy to digest because they're broken down. They're in a liquid form. The body doesn't really have to go through any energy to break that down. It gets into the stomach, into the cardia, the top part of the stomach, and that's where a lot of that absorption and pulling of nutrients takes place when it's delivered in a liquid. The other things that can be added to that is like the ionic minerals, and it's a wonderful way to deliver the minerals into the body for someone who, it's overwhelming to swallow all those capsules and tablets. I mean, you've got to be really selective about what capsules you open up and put in to enhance those those nutritional drinks like the Love and Peas and the Nature's Harvest. You can always add this Slippery Elm to that, which is loaded with minerals and trace minerals. It's very soothing. It's like a Jell-O glove to the digestive tract, to the bowel. It's very healing. You know, he's got a section of the bowel there that really needs to heal well. And if you don't meet your nutrient levels by 5 to 7 times more than what you need, the body doesn't have what it needs to build all that new tissue. And, you know, back to like the D3 levels, I mean, the recommended daily allowance for D3 in the United States is 400 micrograms, or 500 international units. So it's measured in IUs. 400 is enough to prevent rickets, and it's enough to about keep you breathing. 400 IUs is not enough to get the rebuilding ability of the tissue going in the body. So your D3 levels need to be more like 5,000 IUs to 10,000 IUs daily. And during the winter time, you need to take approximately 4 times more during the winter. So if you're taking 10,000 IUs daily, you're gonna need 40,000 units a day.
Wow.
In order to get that blood level up between 70 and 100. So ideally, you want your D3 levels to be between 50 to 100. You never want it below 32. And a lot of the average of people, that D3 level comes in at 10 to 20.
Wow.
So it's one of the reasons why we have so much disease, degenerative disease in our culture in the United States. And these recommended daily allowances are only enough to just barely keep you breathing. So, there's a lot of things that, with fresh organic vegetables, you can steam them. It's certainly much better instead of looking over the table and what they were consuming. The body doesn't need a lot of that stuff. The starch alone, the gluten alone in the pastas are, they're just really not good to be consuming a lot of because of the high gluten levels in that. And I'm going to talk on the next show about, talk some more about that leaky gut syndrome, because it's really very scary and it's very predominant now in this day and age. And one of the problems is the gluten in this genetically modified food. So, when we're trying to, when we're taking care of people who have special nutritional needs, it's really important to try to feed them as simply as possible. Fresh fruits, everything should be organic. Fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, steam the vegetables, bake them. If you bake a potato or a sweet potato at 450 degrees as opposed to 350, what happens is at 450 that starch converts to a glucose so that it's easier to digest. And it tastes better. It's sweeter. It's much sweeter. If you bake that at 350, your body has to try to do the conversion.
Interesting.
Of breaking that turning that starch into a glucose to use for energy.
Wow. Okay.
So, a lot of times with our elderly citizens, we have a lot of problems with, orally with their teeth and stuff. And so, you just cut those salads smaller. You don't have to have big old chunk salads. And in the salad that was there in the bowl, was easily identifiable. It's that packaged stuff with the head lettuce, with a little bit of carrot and some red cabbage, purple cabbage in it, and very little purple cabbage in it. And that stuff, I only took opening a couple of those bags years ago that it was like, wow, why does this stuff smell so weird? You read the label, and it's the preservatives that they add into that, and then of course then it's shipped around, and it's in these cellophane bags where we know there's a lot of problems with the off-gassing of these chemicals into the food. There's chemicals and stuff that are in there to actually make it, and it leaches out onto the food. So, those are other challenges that once they consume those, that their immune system is like, well, what's this? And what's this? And we got to deal with this, and we got to deal with that. And what should we do with it? We don't know what to do with it, so let's store it over here. And what kind of nutrients are left? Well, head lettuce is a good source of, water, but it's not, there's not a lot of nutrients in head lettuce. And there's certainly better lettuces to purchase. The best you can buy is the field green, the spring mixes that are organic, or organic romaine, or Bibb lettuce, red leaf, green leaf. Those are better choices for lettuce. And if you want, if you want that crunch, then you add romaine to it, and get that crunchiness in there that replaces the crunch from the head lettuce. So, steaming and broiling and baking meat, whether it be fish, fowl, beef, buffalo, and black cherry concentrate is another way to help to build the blood. So things that are red, and I've talked about this before, are fruits and vegetables that are red and purple. Those are for the bloodstream. They build a good, strong bloodstream. Keeps the blood clean. Our greens are all our minerals and trace minerals. And then things that are yellow and orange. Those are very good for the digestive tract. Certainly, he had a surgery with the large intestine, and the best food when you're coming out of something like that, and to help to heal that digestive tract, is to start with carrots and squash, sweet potatoes. Those things are very, very good to nourish the whole digestive tract. Papaya is very good. Mangoes, those pineapple. Those are all things that are very good and nourishing for the digestive tract. So it was really, really, really sad to me that in this facility, where there was probably approximately 70 people, to the tune of $6,000 a month. I was very, very disappointed to see that so many people were in their wheelchair out by the nurse's station that were crumped up into balls. One lady kept sneezing. I kept walking over to her wheelchair, and I finally, when a nurse came back to the nurse's station, I said, she needs to be strapped in here. She's not strapped in. She's sneezing so hard, I'm afraid she's going to catapult herself right out of this wheelchair and end up on the tile floor here. And there's really going to be problems for her, if she falls out of this wheelchair. And, and the lady was trying to sleep, and it was like I said to her, why is she not back in her room, in her bed, and comfortable? And the nurse says, well, they need to be out of their room and up for a certain amount during the day. Well, she's clearly asleep. And And I realize if you're worried about respiratory problems, then, you elevate the upper part of the bed so that she's comfortable, but she's elevated. And, I witnessed seeing in 2 days that I would never, ever want one of my loved ones in a situation like that. And, as I've been in and out of some of those places over the years, I've always left with the feeling that, man, I wish I knew of somebody that was a big investor. I mean, I would love to have a place that took care of like 20 people. And bring them in and get them well and get them on their feet. And, where's the massage therapist? How about an acupuncturist? How about a swimming pool in this place? It doesn't even have to be a deep one, 3-4 feet. Get these people moving in some water. Get their muscles working against the resistance of the water gently, right, to get them stronger. And just, looking around and just the medicine trays of just all the meds. And it was very, very frustrating to me that I would think that in this 21st century we would be moving forward. There's certainly the knowledge is out there.
Right.
How about a chiropractor? It's like trying to find, we were trying to find a chiropractor that would go up there and give him some adjustments. And couldn't find any chiropractor that would go into that medical setup facility to do an adjustment.
Interesting.
Well, even though a chiropractor, like here in the state of Colorado, they're recognized. They can be a primary doctor. And, it took until the 80s for the chiropractors to win their right as a physician. And they're so knowledgeable. And it's just, and when it comes to your bone structure, first thing you do is you seek out a chiropractor before you go run into an orthopedic doctor and see what that chiropractor can't do for you. And a majority of the time, unless it's a broken bone or fractured bone or where you're going to need a rod or pins or something like that, certainly everybody has their place, but I don't think that naturopaths are used as much as in the capacity that they could be used. I don't think that chiropractors are used in the capacity that they could be used. Massage therapists, the same thing. But I left pretty disheartened thinking, this can just be so much better than this. And this care almost was like palliative care, almost like keep them comfortable. Keep them comfortable, and certainly, I'm sorry to tell you, but the food on the table was slop. And I wouldn't fix that kind of food and give it to a hog.
Wow.
Let
That's
alone
pretty bad.
give it to a human being. It's really pathetic, really pathetic. And then, and that's just the truth. They're still giving Jell-O out with food coloring and sugar and made with the chlorinated ammonia water right out of the tap. They're cooking vegetables to the point that they are so dead that by the time they throw the water out, all the nutrients are in the water. Out goes all the nutrition down the drain when they pull these overcooked vegetables out, and all the good stuff is left behind in the water. It's like with potatoes. If you slice a potato and you notice right underneath the skin, you notice that there's like a ring that goes around that potato. And a lot of times when people peel a potato, they peel it so deep that they peel that ring away. That's a potassium ring. That's where a lot of the nutrition of that potato is at. So it's like around my house, and if they want mashed potatoes, they get potatoes that the skin is scrubbed and cleaned really well. And my mashed potatoes have potato skins in them.
That's the way I like mine.
Yeah.
So I don't like it peeled either.
Yeah,
I'd rather have it
that's the nutrition, and then the water that's left behind. I cook my potatoes in a real high alkaline water, and so what's really good left over, that high alkaline water with all the potassium and the good nutrients in that. That's a good vegetable soup base. You save that. It's like a vital broth. There's wonderful nutrition in there, and you can build upon that with making a soup, and or making some, potato soup with some vegetables and stuff in it, and give them something that, using the coconut oil, putting coconut oil and butter in that, to raise the good quality fat that they need. So, it was great to have that phone call this morning, and, it's like she told me that she was so thankful that I took the time to come down and to see him. And as soon as I heard how sick he was, it was like, I have to do this no matter what I'm doing. The time has to be, it doesn't matter. I'm going, and it was about a 400-mile drive from where I was at, and 800 miles round trip, but it was worth it, and his life is worth it.
Right.
And he's such a wonderful, awesome man. And, to be told that by her bringing in, kefir and having him drink some of that before he goes to sleep at night, and getting the extra easy things to put into, bring in her purse and give to him without anybody knowing about it. And those were all very good things. And she said that yesterday, the people were commenting, because he's been there for almost 2 months.
Wow.
And really started deteriorating right off the bat. It was just slowly going downhill, and they were all feeling that it was really critical that he wasn't going to be with them much longer if there wasn't a shift in something. And what do? We're overwhelmed, and that's where sometimes it does take someone who's not in the immediate family, to you're able to step out of that and to take a look and see, observe the situation, and realize what needs to be done.
Right,
so
right.
sometimes we get too overwhelmed when it's too close to home. And you don't ever want that fear mode to come in, and I've talked about that before also, is that fear factor. You get into that fear factor, and all kinds of bad decisions start getting made because you're fearful.
Right.
And so it's exciting that he will be going home probably the first of the week. There will be people coming in. And at that point, then, he's able to have fresh berries and fruit and fresh eggs, farm eggs, and free-range eggs, and naturally raised meat, and the protein drinks, and organic vegetables. And so it's just, it's really good, because it was very encouraging to know that he may be 87 years old, but you know what? He's probably going to be with us another 10 years.
Well, hey, you didn't help just him. You helped his family. So.
That's right, and so and that is what is so wonderful about this field is, his wife was reaching out to me, and she was so upset, and it's like, well, I'm coming down, rest assured, I'm coming down, and we're going to get this figured out. And it didn't take but a week of getting this extra nutrition into him that was very easy to do, because, when people don't feel good, they don't want you messing with them.
Right.
They don't want to drink what you want them drinking. They don't want to open their mouth and you squirt D3 liquid into them, or you squirt some chlorophyll, or actually loves the blackstrap molasses, and that is very willingly he's cut his mouth open and bring it on, you know. So, you know, it's those things that that build health and make a difference. And, you know, we can't get better if we do not have the amount of nutrition that we need to build new tissue.
Right.
And a recommended daily allowances, like I said, is just really enough to keep you breathing. It's really not enough to overcome health challenges. You need 5 to 7 times more nutrition in order to get to the point of getting the system built up. And one thing to always have on hand is kefir, or kefir, K-E-F-I-R. And it's best to have the whole fat than to have the low fat. The low fat has a real sour taste to it, but the higher fat content it works better in the gut on delivering the nutrients into the cell. Because remember, I've talked about before how every cell in the body is covered with an omega-3 coating, essential fatty acid coating. And in order to penetrate that cell and deliver that nutrition, you need fat. And one thing we found in this country when we tried that low-fat, no-fat diet, it wasn't going well. People were having their gallbladders removed left and right. We have to have fat, and we have to have fat to break fat down. But we need the right fat. So olive oil, butter, coconut oil. And those are all easy things to incorporate and add into, vegetables. Add some extra butter into it. You know, when you're dealing with my child that was handicapped, multiple handicapped, and, you know, he didn't walk or sit or talk. He couldn't even hold his head. He wasn't able to use his muscles to where his muscles would build from being used. And in order to keep his muscles healthy and to keep him healthy, you know, I did a lot of, I got a blender, and all of his food was organic, and any food that, you know, had any pesticides on it was not things that I ever bought or used for him. And I went through a lot of butter and a lot of olive oil in his 12 years that I had him. And you just had to add that extra fat and stuff. And he stayed really lean, but he was really, other than his seizure disorder, he really stayed very, very healthy. And the herbs, again, you know, there's a lot of herbs that you can incorporate into protein drinks and blended up vegetables and fruits. So the real bitter ones you can't. Those are detected pretty quickly. And what I have people do with herbs that are bitter, if they're, you know, if you're needing those bitter herbs for, you know, the liver or the gallbladder or the digestive tract, what you do is you blend up, you do your juicing, and you blend that all up. And then right before you're going to have them drink that, open and empty 2 or 3 capsules of whatever it is that doesn't really taste very well. And mix that up, really stir that up with a spoon, and have them drink it. It doesn't sit around long enough to incorporate in that taste. It's just like with cayenne. You know, when I'll tell people to take cayenne, you know, 1/4 teaspoon in 4 ounces of water. Have 8 ounces of water sitting next to it. Put that 1/4 teaspoon in that 4 ounces of water and stir that up. Slam that down and follow with another glass of water. It's not hot. If you throw that 1/4 teaspoon in that 4 ounces and the phone rings and you get sidetracked, or the doorbell rings and you answer that, and 20 minutes later you come back to it, forget it.
Yeah, right.
It's so hot. There's no way you're going to be able to drink that down. You know, and dump it out. But, you know, the thing is that cayenne, you know, it's excellent for circulation. It's excellent for getting blood flow to the brain. It will stop a heart attack. cayenne pepper, capsicum will stop a heart attack. It will cauterize any internal bleeding. It'll stop internal bleeding. Profuse bleeding, you can sprinkle cayenne pepper on that or black pepper, and that'll seal that up. Get you to where you need to if you need some stitches, unless you have a huge gaping opening in the body. But for the most part, you can pour cayenne pepper on a wound. It doesn't burn. It's your taste buds where it burns. So, so there's, things that are bitter, things that are hot. You just stir those in at the very last moment and have them consume it. And it goes down really well, and it's just not a problem. So the other thing that with people who are not moving very well and trying to keep that fluid intake up, that's where the protein drinks work really well, because you can get by with any protein drink that says, to add 8 ounces of water. You can safely get by with adding another 4 ounces of water, and add to that a teaspoon of slippery elm. Add to that maybe a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of psyllium husks. And what the psyllium husks does is, as it goes through the digestive tract, it softens everything in the large intestine so that it's hydrated with enough fluid so that they don't become constipated. Because if they become constipated, the worst thing that can happen is giving them lower bowel cleansers. They're very harsh. They're very explosive. It's not comfortable for the patient. And it's not a fun situation to clean up whoever is having to address that issue of cleaning everything up. So by just adding a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of psyllium husks a day or twice a day into a protein drink, and I'm telling you, they taste good. They taste great. That Nature's Harvest is so full of greens, and it's one thing that my little granddaughter really, really loves, because she will not eat vegetables. So the way to eat vegetables is the Nature's Harvest. Juicing. I'll always use pineapple as a base, and I can always get away with 1 or 2 handfuls of spring mix and an extra handful of spinach and blend that all up, and she absolutely loves it. And so it's like, it's green, it's kind of weird looking, but it tastes really good. And I don't, a few times I've had to, when she's asked, well, what all is in this? It's really good. And you show her the vegetables, and it's like, well, I don't think I want to eat that drink that anymore. And it's like, well, you know what? You just got in telling me how good it tasted, so you're gonna drink it. And so it's been a really good way to get, that's one way for somebody who doesn't want to eat vegetables. Put your vegetables in the juicing, when you're doing that, and you can also put in there the, 4 or 5 broccoli. Flowerets, and because broccoli is another one of those amazing alkalizing vegetables, and it's a cruciferous vegetable, so it really builds and strengthens the immune system. And but I told everybody in my family when I came back, it's like, don't ever even entertain the thought of ever placing me somewhere in a situation that is overseen by dietitians and the medical field, to where they want you on your pain pills and your anti-inflammatory, cortisone drugs, and don't put me somewhere where they're not progressive as far as healing. And I did get a promise that I wouldn't because they were too afraid I would come back and haunt them if I died, which I would if I could. I won't know until I'm there, but, it's like, but, the thing is you look around that room, and I know how well my friend at 87 years old over the years has taken care of himself. And this is why once they kind of got away from just being overwhelmed and the medications and the food that was being served and given to him every day, and he just pretty much shut down. It was like, I'm not eating this stuff. I don't want it. It's better to not eat than to eat that stuff. And to look around at, I see it as really non-improvement with the people, that have been there. And it's just really sad. And we are a country where, in Europe, they take care of their family members. And they're elderly. Some of these people were just, they were put in this retirement center because their loved ones were too busy with their life. This situation is, his wife is older also, and it was too overwhelming for her. And, it was in hopes that he would be home in a few weeks. But, the state of, the coffee, the juice, the water out of the tap, the cooked to death vegetables, the everything thrown together and blended up and thrown in a casserole dish. Lots of white flour, lots of bakery products. I mean, these are not health-building foods, and you don't build good health with those foods. And that's why we are a country with so much disease. And unfortunately, a registered dietitian, I'm really sorry, but, they are taught by the medical field. And actually, registered dietitians are taught more from a standpoint of, what to do in critical situations. And, that's that comes in with the Ensure that's full of sugar, full of corn syrup, that's genetically modified. I'm sorry, that's not a nutritious food. There's a lot of the promoting of that. Jell-O, ice cream, and we're not talking Ben and Jerry's ice cream that they're passing out. We're not talking about Breyers. We're talking about, ice cream that if you pull apart the nutrients that make up and are added to that ice cream, and I've talked about this before on a past show, is what's in that ice cream. There's things that kill bugs, kill lice. There's floor stripper. I challenge you to, the next time you reach for one of those boxes of the convenient little ice cream cups or the ice cream sandwiches, read those labels. Why don't you search some of those words that you cannot pronounce and really see what they are?
Right?
You will really
be shocked.
you will be shocked. You want to be. That's one thing that's nice about some of the all-natural lines out there, and the ones that use really high-quality products. It's better to pay a little bit more for that better quality product.
Right.
But if you can read that label, and exactly what each one of those ingredients are, and that they're good, then that is something to, that you can purchase and add to their diet, but only as, I'm not advocating, ice cream every day for those that are weak and in degenerative illnesses, and those that are trying to build strength and overcome illness, and just the lack of appetite that kind of comes along with as people get older, they're not as hungry. So you have to make sure that the food that you are providing to them is nutrient dense, that it has a lot of concentrated nutrition in it. And juicing and those two particular protein drinks are really my favorites, and it is because they are so palatable. They're so good. I've not had anybody that did not like them, and people who drink them, they look forward to the next one that they're going to get. And you can find all of those on kingdomofhealing.com, and like I said, go to that upper right corner where it says search and type in the name of the product. But, bee pollen is another thing that is excellent, that is a whole food. It's enzymes, it's protein, it's minerals and trace minerals. Bee pollen can be as something extra for some energy to be added to that. Again, the slippery elm, the psyllium husks, the ionic minerals, the liquid calcium, D3 to be added to those things, the probiotic 11, fluorophores, the L-acidophilus. These are all things that can be added to these drinks, and it's still very, very palatable, and it tastes really, really well. So, and then, of course, the curcumin. If you're dealing with inflammation, slow to heal, you need an immune system boost, you can buy turmeric or buy the curcumin and open and empty 2 capsules of that into the protein drink. There's a lot of nutrients for the immune system in that as well. Coconut oil is far more palatable to throw a couple teaspoons of that into blending up a green drink or juicing than to throw any butter or olive oil in it. So the coconut oil works really, really well. And if they like things like pancakes and bread and there's some desserts or something that you want to make, go back to my show where I gave the gluten-free recipe to make your own grain mixture.
Right.
To make bread and pancakes and things like that. And, my little granddaughter loves it, and I put, I cook her pancakes in coconut oil, and I use butter, and she was very underweight when I got her about a little over a year and a half ago, and she's still underweight, but she still managed to gain 12 pounds. But
that's good.
It's very good. And hopefully by the time she hits her teenage years with drinking down the vegetables in her smoothies, that she may attempt to eat a salad that has some spinach in it. She will eat at least lettuce is her vegetable. It's about the only thing that she'll eat that's green. And so that's romaine and red leaf or green leaf. But there are a lot of ways and things that we can do to help those who are weak and debilitated, and those overcoming illness, and those that just need the extra concentration and nutrition when we get into senior citizen and geriatric age, that they don't have to be sick. And food is your best medicine. And it is best to always be very aware of, when you're purchasing those items, that you're buying GMO-free, they're certified organic, and the water, I can't say enough about the alkaline water. So that is something to, add to the diet and make sure that everything they're consuming is made with that alkaline water. So that is all for today, and the next show I'm going to talk about the leaky gut syndrome, because this really needs our attention, and people really need to understand what a serious, chronic, debilitating problem this is, and it's on the rise in our country. So y'all take care, and until next week, you have a blessed week, and I'll be back to talk to you then. Take care.